Your money or your life? It's the title of a book by Joe Dominguez and Vicki Robin. It's also the classic line uttered by gangsters and canvas committees. Your money or your life. Comedian Jack Bentley often played a miserly tightwad, and seeing a gangster ask him, your money or your life, and he pauses. And then the gangster says, your money or your life? And Benny replies, I'm thinking. Your money and your life are often placed in opposition. Sometimes making a living gets in the way of having a life. However much we get, there is always more. Our life is less if we don't have more. If buying little toys made us happy as kids, then buying big toys should make us ecstatic as adults. But does it? Do we ever get enough? Do we live beyond our means? Why is money so mysterious? Dominguez and Robin outline four perspectives of money. First, it's the practical level. It's the stuff that helps us get stuff. Money is paper, coins, or plastic, never quite elastic when we need to stretch it farther. This is the level of budgets, of incomes and outgoes. If you can add and subtract, you should be able to manage your money. Most of us did well in 8th grade math, so of course, none of us have any problem managing money. Yet some of us do. And one of the reasons is that money also works on a level in the emotional and psychological realm. At this level, we come to see how our own attitudes about money were shaped by the family we grew up in. Did your family consider itself rich, poor, or just average? Was money discussed openly, or was it impolite to talk about money? Did you have an allowance? Was it tied to doing chores? Was it more or less than your friends? And then is money security? Does it protect you from the cold, cruel world? Does financial security mean emotional security? Or maybe money means power. How does giving or withholding money influence the people in your lives? And how do other people's money influence you? Some of us operate from the myth that money is social acceptance. And I want to make clear that that's not the case in this community. It's not the point of the canvas. Our bylaws state merely that one needs to make a contribution of record. If you document that penny, you're in. The membership does not depend on money. The urge to be part of a group is a deep one in many aspects of our lives. We want to be accepted. We want to buy the right clothes, have the right things. Going out for dinner with friends requires money. So does buying the next round of drinks, buying the flower, an engagement ring, for some reason should be 2 months' salary. I don't know who came up with that. An expensive romantic vacation can provide the right setting, but it cannot provide true romance. Plus, there's a sunset free every night and a full moon once a month. Others grow up with the notion that money is evil. Therefore, you can't talk about it in church because it's not spiritual. It's something to be avoided. Because the Bible says that money is the root of all evil. And Jesus says that you cannot love God and money, and that it's easier for the rich man to get through an eye of a needle than to get into heaven. All this negativity about money can make one feel guilty when one gets paid. Either it's too much or too little, you can't win because it's all evil. Because of this idea that money is evil, we sell ourselves short. In his book, Earn What You Deserve, Gerald Mundis says, under-earners generally do not look at money as their friend. It never writes, it never calls, and it's always hanging out with other people. If we think of money as our enemy, we try to avoid dealing with it. We do not keep track of how much comes in or goes out. The only time we notice it is when our bank account tells us that there's none in our checking account. Oh, that evil money, it just ran out on me again. Third perspective of money is at the cultural level. Money is that store of value. It's an agreed upon perception. The cost of living index keeps going up. But there are things in the consumer price index that did not exist 20 years ago. We feel poorer than our parents, who lived in a home that had no air conditioning, a black and white TV, a mono record player, and no computer. Every day we hear the economic reports, and they frighten us as much as the crime reports, the specters of inflation, cost of living, recession, frighten us into adherence to the economic recipe for well-being. Growth is good, more is better. And like any religion based on fear, this economic creed keeps us bound by our ignorance. Depending on the priests at the Federal Reserve to preserve our cost of living adjusted income, just narrowly outpacing the specter of inflation. However, Our Lady of Perpetual Growth has not brought us the security and happiness we trusted would be ours for believing in her. With the fourth level of money, and I think the most important, is the level of personal responsibility and transformation. It is the level that we learn that money is not something outside of ourselves. We often confuse money with the symbols of money, dollar bills, coins, stock options, or we confuse it with what it's supposed to do in winning friends and influencing people. Or we confuse it with the macroeconomic machinations of multinational corporations. But the truth of money lies within ourselves. Money is something we trade our life energy for. Our life energy is our allotment of time here on earth, the hours of our precious life. We trade time for money at our jobs. The world is transformed when we see money as part of ourselves. Gerald Mundis writes that the real source of your money is God or the universe, or for the decidedly secular, yourself. The real source of a cabinet maker's money is not his clients, but the skill with his hands, his feel for the wood, the knowledge of the grain. He is the source of his own money. If you perceive money as something outside of yourself, then you never have enough. But your life energy is your own. It's your ultimate commodity you have to trade. How you spend your time is how you spend your money. If it's defined outside of ourselves, we can never get enough because being rich is a relative term, because there's always someone richer. And you get more money and you move up into the next social circle and you find people who have still more. As long as rich is available to the likes of us, it will no longer be considered rich. Rather than trying to figure out when we are rich, we can have control over what is enough. We currently live under a construct that 2 incomes are necessary to run a household. It does not always take account the cost of working, the commute, the taxes taken out of your check to pay for the professional wardrobe and the child care, the cost of dining out because you don't have time to eat in, the cost of home cleaning services, the cost of landscapers because you're too tired to mow the lawn, the cost of taking your car to the shop because you do not have time to do it yourself. And you only get paid for the time at work, not all the time you spend getting ready for work, and not all the time vegging out after work when you need to just decompose and get rid of the day, decompress. I'm sorry. It's been a rough week. When you figure out all the extra costs, your hourly wage diminishes. Your boss might tell you you're getting $10 an hour, but it ends up being around $4. At this rate of pay, you better love your job because you are volunteering. And what is volunteering? But giving your time to do something worthwhile. Are our jobs worthwhile? Or would time be better spent doing something else? Instead of struggling to make a living, we should be striving to make a life. When you get down to it, money is about relationship. I spend some life energy doing for you, and you spend some life energy doing for me. That's the way it's always been, from the early bartering societies to electronic money transfers. In this global economy, we have relationships with the whole world, but the breadth, depth, quantity of relationships is no substitute for the quality of relationships that give us the sense of having enough. Dominguez and Robin ask, what is the purpose higher than getting what we want? The opposite of getting is giving, and therein lies the secret to fulfillment, beyond the point of enough. Because when you establish your point of enough, and then establish and seek out ways to give your surplus, it's easier to achieve happiness by exercising the capacity to give. If you have a purpose in your life that is higher than getting more, your energies are focused on fulfilling that purpose. Whether it's loving your family, serving on the school board, being part of a fellowship, or working for peace or for the environment, it's what you give is where you feel your real wealth. The 2 books that I've drawn on today have lots of nuts and bolts on tips on money management, and I don't have time to share you with those in this context, and nobody likes looking at budgets anyway. But they're a necessary tool. But what I want us to do today is to begin to transform our relationship with money and realize that there is a spiritual dimension of money, and that is why the topic of money is worthy of worship. Because money is ourselves invested. Thinking of our lives in terms of what we give. Now, when we think of giving, we think of charity, or giving to the fellowship as part of our the canvas. But it's not the only way of giving. Consider taxes. Taxation without representation is tyranny, but taxation with representation is sharing. Money allocated democratically for the greater good of society. If you do not like how it's being allocated, give your life energy to the democratic process. Investing is giving someone money to create something new. Saving money is giving to our own future, and maybe even the future of others. Spending money is giving to our present needs. Working is giving time to something that matters. Getting paid is giving others a chance to show appreciation. It gives honor to your efforts. We have just one life to live. Give to what you value. Give with your time and your money, for they are one and the same. Live, give. May we bless and be blessed.